That tomato didn't split by accident. It's one of 7 watering mistakes quietly damaging a tomato harvest.
And one of those mistakes is so common that most gardeners make it without even noticing.
This tomato cracked because the plant went from dry soil to a sudden burst of water, through rain or through catching up after being neglected, faster than the skin could stretch to keep up. It's one of the most common things that happens to a healthy-looking tomato plant, and it's rarely about one bad day. It's usually a pattern.
Over the next few minutes, we're going through 7 watering mistakes, each one tied to something you can actually see: cracked fruit, wilting leaves, yellowing, spotted foliage, and rot at the bottom of the fruit. Every one of them comes back to water, not always too much or too little, but inconsistency. By the end, you'll have a simple way to check your plants instead of guessing.
Mistake number 1, letting the soil swing from bone dry to soaking wet. When a tomato plant goes through a dry stretch, the fruit's skin starts to toughen and lose some of its stretch. Then a heavy rain, or a gardener trying to make up for lost time, floods the root zone all at once. The fruit pulls in water fast, expands quickly, and the skin splits, sometimes in rings around the top, sometimes in long cracks down the side.
Large fruited varieties, like beefsteaks, are especially prone to this, simply because there's more fruit surface under pressure. The fix isn't complicated. Keep the moisture level steady, rather than letting it swing from one extreme to the other. A layer of mulch helps enormously here, because it slows evaporation and buys you more room between waterings without the soil drying all the way out.
Here's the mistake almost everyone makes without thinking twice: seeing droopy leaves in the afternoon heat and reaching straight for the hose.
On a hot afternoon, tomato leaves often roll or droop, not because the plant is thirsty, but because it's protecting itself. The leaves reduce their surface area and close off tiny pores to cut down on water loss while the heat is at its worst. For a lot of plants, that's simply what a 90-degree afternoon looks like, and it has nothing to do with how you've been watering.
Recovery as temperatures fall can suggest this is temporary heat stress rather than a water problem. But persistent wilting, leaves still limp well after the sun goes down, or still down the next morning, is a signal to actually check what's going on, not just add more water. Push a finger below the surface to feel the soil. Look at the base of the stem. In some cases, ongoing wilt can point to a drainage problem, root damage, or even a soil-borne disease, not simply a dry root zone. Watering out of habit, without checking first, is often how overwatering mistakes start.
Mistake number 3, frequent light watering that never really reaches the root zone. A quick splash from a watering can every day feels responsible, but it often wets only the top inch or 2 of soil. That surface layer dries out fast in the sun, so the plant ends up pulling most of its moisture from a shallow band near the top, which leaves it more vulnerable the moment that top layer dries out, especially during a heat stretch, like the one we just talked about.
Deeper, less frequent watering encourages moisture to reach further down, where it's more stable and less affected by a single hot afternoon. In practice, that means watering less often, but more thoroughly, enough that moisture actually moves several inches into the soil, not just across the surface. If you're not sure whether you're reaching deep enough, a simple soil probe, or even a long screwdriver, can tell you it should slide into moist soil with relatively little resistance.
Mistake number 4 sits on the opposite end, watering so often that the soil never gets a chance to dry out at all. Plant roots need oxygen just as much as they need water. When soil stays saturated, air gets pushed out of the spaces between soil particles, and the roots can start to suffocate.
Here's what makes this mistake tricky. The symptoms often look exactly like underwatering. Leaves turn yellow, the plant looks limp, growth stalls, and the instinct is to water even more. That response can make a bad situation worse, encouraging the kind of root rot that thrives in consistently wet, poorly drained soil.
Before you assume a struggling plant needs water, check whether the soil is actually dry. If it's still damp several inches down and the plant still looks stressed, drainage is worth investigating, whether that means improving the soil with organic matter or simply spacing out how often you're watering that particular spot in the garden.
So far, everything we've covered happens underground, but some of the most common tomato problems start on the leaves.
Mistake number 5. Repeatedly wetting the foliage every time you water. When water splashes onto leaves, from an overhead sprinkler, a hose, or even careless can watering, and stays there for hours, it creates favorable conditions for common fungal problems like early blight and septoria leaf spot. Both usually start as small spots on the lower leaves, and if conditions stay wet, can spread upward through the plant. This doesn't mean wet leaves guarantee disease. Plenty of rained-on gardens do fine. But repeated, avoidable foliage wetness raises the odds significantly, especially in humid climates. Apply water near the soil line when practical, especially where foliar-disease pressure is high. And if foliage does get wet from rain or from watering, morning watering gives it more time to dry out before evening, rather than sitting wet overnight.
Mistake number 6 is the one most gardeners misunderstand completely. Blossom end rot isn't simply about adding more calcium.
Blossom end rot is a physiological calcium disorder in developing fruit. You'll see it as a dark, sunken patch at the bottom of the tomato, opposite the stem. The confusing part is that most garden soil actually has plenty of calcium in it. The real issue is getting that calcium to move into the fruit. Irregular moisture, root damage, rapid early season growth, and excessive nitrogen fertilizer can all interfere with that calcium transport, even when the soil itself isn't deficient. Watering inconsistency is a frequent contributor because calcium moves through the plant along with water, but it's rarely the only factor at work, which is why simply pouring on more calcium usually doesn't fix it. The most common misdiagnosis is treating it as a disease and looking for a spray when there's no pathogen to target at all. Remove affected fruit so the plant can direct its energy elsewhere and focus on keeping soil moisture steady, especially while the first fruits are forming. Don't assume a single calcium application will solve a moisture management issue. It typically won't. This tends to show up earliest on paste and plum-type tomatoes, and worse in a plant's first flush of fruit, before the root system is matured. If you're seeing it repeatedly, look at your watering consistency and fertilizing habits together, rather than treating each fruit as an isolated event.
Mistake number 7 only shows up in pots and containers, treating them exactly like an in-ground bed.
Containers have no reserve of deep soil to fall back on. They dry out faster, heat up faster in direct sun, and can swing from moist to bone dry in a single hot afternoon, especially smaller pots. On concrete or a sun-baked patio, a common mistake is assuming a container needs less water than an in-ground plant, simply because it's smaller. In most cases, the opposite is true. A container often needs more frequent attention, purely because it holds so much less reserve moisture. The fix isn't a stricter schedule. It's watering thoroughly enough to moisten the entire active root zone and let excess drain freely out the bottom, so the whole container is evenly wet, not just the top layer. From there, how often you water again depends on pot size, growing medium, drainage, wind, temperature, plant maturity, and what you observe when you check. A 5-gallon pot in full afternoon sun during a heat wave may need daily attention, sometimes twice. A large, well-mulched container in partial shade may need far less. Don't rely on frequent, shallow sips just because the container is small. That repeats mistake number 3 in an environment where it does even more damage. Use a larger container than you think you need, if space allows, since more soil volume means a larger moisture reserve and more room for error.
Here's how to put all 7 of these together into a routine you can actually use before you reach for the hose.
First, a soil check. Push a finger or a probe below that dry surface layer as your initial read, not one universal depth for every garden. In-ground beds benefit from occasionally checking moisture deeper in the active root zone, not just the first inch. Resistance alone can be misleading in compacted or rocky soil, so look at and feel what comes up.
not just how hard it was to get there.
Second, a recovery check. If leaves are wilted in the afternoon heat, look again once temperatures drop. Recovery by evening or the next morning can suggest temporary heat stress. But if wilting persists, don't assume the plant simply needs more water. Check soil moisture below the surface, check drainage, and consider whether disease could be involved.
Third, a drainage check. If water sits on the surface or takes a long time to soak in, that's a drainage problem, not a sign the plant needs more water.
Fourth, a method and container check. Water thoroughly enough to moisten the active root zone and allow excess to drain. Then adjust how often based on pot size, medium, drainage, wind, temperature, and what you're observing. Apply water near the soil line when practical, especially where foliar-disease has been a problem.
Run through these 4 before you water out of habit, and most of today's 7 mistakes become much easier to avoid. A consistent, observation-based watering routine can prevent several of these problems before visible damage appears.
And it starts with checking before you water, not after something looks wrong.
The next video shows how to recognize a tomato plant that can still be saved and when it's truly time to pull it.
And if practical, evidence-based garden advice is useful to you, consider subscribing.